library. Today in this lecture, I will be breaking down our life's true purpose in the composition of the body and soul. But before I begin, I want to send an important message to those listening, including the black budget government that tracks my every move. To my fellow Atlanteans, Nomos and Nagas, the fact that we have made it to this part in our journey is significant. Our souls reincarnated for one purpose only, and that is to overthrow and destroy this establishment. And now to the black budget government that's listening. All of your tactics to hide my true identity, all of the agents you have follow me on a consistent basis, all of the traps that were laid out for me to lull me back to sleep and slumber, you failed. The only thing you Zionist demons don't understand is that you cannot stop destiny and the will of the universe. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get started. So, to go any further, first I must explain how we even got here in the flesh. The creation of human beings is more complex than we all could have ever imagined. I will be going over the chemetic splicing program that was used in ancient Kemet to engineer the human race. Growing up through religion, we have been taught that one God created all humans. This is false propaganda pushed by the church to keep this hidden truth from us humans. The story of Adam, Eve, and the serpent was actually telling us the truth of human creation. And I'm here to tell you that the first humans were created on Mars. Yes, folks, you heard me correctly. And now I'm going to prove it. The planet Mars is associated with large amounts of red iron oxide dust and glass deposits that cover most of the planet's surface. Red iron oxide dust is associated with high levels of radiation, and the glass deposits, modern astrologists will tell us, are a result of meteoroid impacts on the planet's surface. But if this were the case, why don't all other meteoroid impacts on the Earth have massive amounts of glass deposits like Mars? Not to mention these glass deposits cover almost the entire planet's surface. There was literally a war between the gods over if humans deserve the right to become gods. There was a 50-50 split between the Kemetic gods, and this is where you get the text from the Bible speaking on the followers of Satan being kicked out of heaven and the other fallen angels that followed him. These are the draconian, insectoid, and gray extraterrestrials that live in inner Earth and also hide in secrecy as the black budget government, and are directly in charge of the decisions made by the surface government you all see, who are either clones or shape-shifting reptilians or insectoid beings. They showed you that these beings existed in many TV shows, cartoons, video games, and movies. Men in Black, Spawn, and the list goes on and on. You guys can do your own research and it will shock and amaze you. The truth is right in our faces. The gods over the reptilians is Sobek, and the god over the insectoids is Kepri. These different extraterrestrial deities have different agendas for humanity. So breaking down the two different types of human beings that were created by the gods. The story of Adam and Eve was talking about the Adam and the mitochondrial Eve gene, aka the God gene. The gods from the higher realms were genetically engineering humans either with or without an active pineal gland. This is what caused a great war to break out on Mars between the gods, and there was an extremely powerful nuclear weapon that was used by one of these deities, which caused Mars to become inhabitable, and is the very reason the Elohim, aka the Nagas and the Nomos gods, came down to the earth. They brought the humans with active pineal glands, and the fallen gods brought their humans without an active third eye, and those were the Khazarian Jewish mafia. They are extraterrestrials hiding in a suit, or they are vampiric-like beings who cannot take the sun and have zero melanin in their body, which requires them to drink blood to stay alive, which is the elixir of the soul. So, when we look at these two different types of gods who are engineering these beings, I'm about to go over that right now. And on the left you can see we have the seeds of Satan. And the god of the Bible is actually the real Satan. He also goes by Ogo by the Dogon elders, or Yaldabaoth, Father Time, the Grim Reaper, or the planet Saturn. This deity was creating humans without an active pineal gland and told these beings to worship him, which is the entire premise of Christianity. The god of the Hebrew Torah goes by El. El is associated with the planet Saturn and the god Kronos, who is Father Time, the Grim Reaper, the real motherfucking Satan. So now if you look here on the right, the other group of human beings that were engineered were the seeds of Osiris, aka Prometheus. The story in the Bible about Eve taking a bite of the apple and that making her hyper aware of everything that she was not previously aware of was actually her pineal gland being activated, and the serpent in the Garden of Eden was Osiris giving his descendants serpent wisdom and a part of his Kundalini fire. Osiris is the real so-called savior god. He was the deity that the Jesus story was fabricated around. Osiris was murdered by his brother Ogo, and Osiris was resurrected by his wife Isis, and they now currently reside on the starship Nibiru, which is coming back into Earth's orbit, and they are coming back for a select few. This is why the black budget government is trying so hard to keep the Atlanteans off course. The Washita Murs, the closest descendants of the gods. The Washita tribe has been around on this planet for the last 100,000 years, according to their elders. What is so profound about this is the god of the Bible, aka Saturn, has had rulership over this planet for about the last 10,000 years, based upon when Kemet fell and the rise of the Greeks and the Europeans took over. The Murs were infiltrated and betrayed by their own people, allowing the Europeans to put them in captivity or kill them. They could have not taken over a nation as strong as the Washita without insider info and insider help. They became an organization known as the Moors, where some chose to be righteous and some chose to profit off of the cause like BLM does, or also known as Black Lives Matter. Also running casinos and letting greed get the best of them. Don't get me wrong, not all Moors are bad. This is just the insight on how a nation as powerful as the Washita were infiltrated and compromised. A lot of our parents have had intimate relationships with those with merged blood and made children. That is a large majority of us here whose bloodlines traces far back to the United States, which is also known as Turtle Island, which was once Atlantis. When Atlantis fell, this is what surged the rise of Kemet, but just like the Washita, the Kemites were infiltrated by their own people and overthrown by invading nations. Whenever you are doing something that is positive and close to nature and doesn't involve you being stretched to their system, they will absolutely try to make you sell out or take you out or attempt to ruin your life. It's a guarantee. We must understand who we are dealing with. These individuals have a depopulation agenda. They do not care what happens to any of us, and that is a fact. The artificial race. So this is where my information might differentiate with other conscious content creators. We have people in the consciousness community right now who are promoting the idea that you have to have dark skin or carry typical so-called melanated features such as hair texture, dark eye color, etc. But folks, I am here to completely dismantle that notion. But first, I must point out who actually the artificial race is. And this is the part that many darker skinned people in the consciousness community are either not understanding or aren't saying. There are what you would call artificial people, which are false light programs set up by the Matrix on both sides, both so-called white people and so-called black people. The one aspect of the human genome that doesn't lie is the phenotype. Your phenotype is your bone structure, which directly determines what species DNA you have, because all known species on this planet have a documented phenotype. So all of you must now do is study these phenotypes, and you are now able to see what genetics a certain person carries. However, just because a being has animal DNA does not make someone an artificial being. This has to be some of the most incorrect information being pushed today within the consciousness community. The reason the darker skinned people of the world do not want to admit this is because a large majority of Africans actually carry the rhesus monkey gene. And this comes back full circle into what I was saying about both sides carrying what you would call, both sides carry what you would call artificial people. It's about whether the DNA inside of you coincides with nature or does not. The hieroglyphics that show gods with animal heads was a literal depiction of these gods. They were animal humanoids, literally gods, and they shaped us in their image. Not all these gods were animal humanoids, but there is one piece of DNA that we share. If you are a neurocarbon being, you are part amphibious. The Nomos, who are the fish gods from Nyan Tolo, there are levels to gods in creation. To believe that it was only one God creating all humans is a propaganda and brainwashing beat into the heads of religious people. Now I can say whatever I want here, but it wouldn't mean anything if I didn't back it up. The first nail in the coffin is going to be about the Pacific Islanders. So, the Pacific Islanders are some of the only blonde-haired, dark-skinned people on the planet. There's only 5 to 10% of the population in the Solomon Islands with this genetic trait, and when they studied the genes of these people, they were fully indigenous. It's game over for all the individuals claiming if you have blonde, straight hair, blue eyes, that you are an artificial being. It is all about the bone structure, aka the phenotype. And if you say eumelanin matters, I got news for you. Eumelanin produces no change within your cell's function, only neuromelanin does that. And neuromelanin is within your bone marrow, your blood cells, and your pineal gland. It is tiny organelles that attach themselves to the cells and increases cellular function. The higher neuromelanin count you have, the stronger being you have the potential to be. The second nail in the coffin is the claim that melanated people are making that so-called black people are only prokaryotic cells. That is a false statement, and I'm about to prove it. So, an electron microscope in an image of Henrietta Lacks's cells, the immortal melanated woman, when they discovered a tumor in her body, they noticed that her cells were multiplying at an extraordinary rate, faster than anything they had ever seen, which meant she was basically immune to any disease or immune condition, and also meant her limbs would have regenerated if wounded. She had a piece of the lost god genetics from the Titans, and each one of these HeLa cells, there's very clearly a nucleus, and a prokaryotic cell does not have a nucleus, which is genetic information. So eukaryotic cells carry more genetic information, and people want to say eukaryotic cell is artificial. Oh no. These individuals don't understand that there was a genetic splicing program done by the higher gods to create different varieties of life to see what combination would harmonize best with their environment. In Lemuria, we had people being spliced with lemur DNA. This is why it was called Lemuria, due to the jungle-like environment. And yes, these were melanated beings. Y'all gotta wake up. Your consciousness community has been infiltrated with COINTELPRO and simply individuals who cannot accept when they are wrong. And their only response back is, I'm a god and you can't tell me what is right. The age of Aquarius is the age of accountability, and we must accept when we were wrong. This shit is not black and white, folks. It is very, very much deeper. And up here on the right, and then I have a picture of Henrietta Lacks's HeLa cells. You'll see the picture on the right here. The individuals claiming that carbonated beings are only made up of prokaryotic cells need to purchase an electron microscope, take a blood sample, and show their results under the microscope, and their cells must not have a nucleus. But this is the thing, folks. They will never do this, and because they have no proof for their claims. So we have all these people in the consciousness community, and it all started with an individual named Kala Amun-Ra, which is someone who I used to follow within this consciousness community. And when I came across this information that about the Henrietta Lacks's HeLa cells, and I pointed this out to this individual that his information is wrong, and that all so-called melanated people are not only prokaryotic cells, this man decided to make threats to me, etc., etc. So you got to understand who we're dealing with, guys. Like, we're dealing with a bunch of people who are refusing to accept when they're wrong, when the age of Aquarius is literally the age of accountability. A bunch of hypocrites. The third and final nail in the coffin is the Magus of Java. His name is John Chang, the real-life avatar. In the early 1980s, a camera crew was given access to film a man named John Chang, also known as the Magus of Java. Chang was known to be able to perform acts of pyrokinesis, aerokinesis, electrokinesis, and much, much more. Chang was hesitant to allow them to film him performing these acts until one of the camera crew's brothers had gotten a serious eye infection. During their time with him, Chang had shown him doing acts of pyrokinesis by setting a piece of paper on fire using nothing but chi orgone energy. The camera footage has been broken down by editing experts, and it has been confirmed to be real footage. He was also on camera sending electrical shocks through people's bodies, so strong that these people claimed it felt like they were getting pushed back with a large amount of force. After Chang found out the camera crew had shared the footage of him doing these acts, he told them they were no longer allowed to film him. Almost 10 years later, the brother I brought up in the beginning had passed away, and his brother had gotten a serious eye infection as well. This is when John Chang allowed them to film once again. After he had went on a 2-year meditation journey in a native forest, he had told the camera crew he had multiple revelations and saw the future for humanity and saw where its progression was headed. When they began filming again, he was working on civilians at his practice and sending chi energy through people's bodies, causing their limbs to move without their intent. John Chang is just one example of an individual that is being claimed as so-called artificial because he's an Asian man, even though he is on camera performing acts of godhood. It's time for us to wake the fuck up. There is a small percentage of each race that is carbonated. The soul does not require the physical body to be 100% so-called black. We cannot fall victim for the false light matrix that we see with our two eyes. With our two eyes. It's all about the light that glows off of one's vessel. Green, red, blue, or yellow/gold. Now that I've covered the two types of beings that were created by the gods, I will be going over who these gods are and their intentions for humanity. So part 2 of this lecture, I'll be going over the beings in charge of the earth and the gods of the macroverse. The entities that rule over the light photon spectrum and their agenda for humanity, the Alpha Draconians. In the movie Jupiter Ascending, they showed us a depiction of these beings along with many other movies, TV shows, cartoons, and video games. The reason why this depiction is one of the closest is because here they are showing you their wings as they are fallen angels. And right here on the top right is a hieroglyphic or a carving from ancient Sumeria. And the image above shows the reptilian holding the pine cone, which represents your pineal gland, which is your third eye. All major nations that were once ruled by the ancient Atlanteans were overthrown and taken over by beings without humanity's best interests. This includes Sumeria, where they showed you on the Sumerian walls the beings that were in rulership over this land at the time of these depictions. And you can clearly see that this is a reptilian being here. More depictions of the reptilians throughout history. The Mokias regarded the iguana man as a powerful character who was crucial to their descent into the underworld, acting as a mediator between the world of the living and the dead. Morop was equally feared and revered. This is the nail in the motherfucking coffin right here, folks. The reptilian race is in charge of the soul recycling machine that we call the moon, but it is actually a hollowed out space station that is inhabited by otherworldly beings such as reptilians, the insectoids, and the greys. The reason why is specifically stated they are crucial for their descent into the underworld is because they would convince their souls to reincarnate into a different body so they could come back to all the things in the material realm that emotionally kept their energy trapped to this material plane. Also, being a mediator between the living and the dead just means they use your dead ancestors and as means to try to trick you to come back into the material world. This is the main job that these beings have in this planet, is to keep us reincarnating without any past life memories, giving them more opportunities to trick us and keep our light densified in a physical body. There are many more reptilian-like statues all over the globe, and I'm going over one more, the most notorious of all. The gargoyle, the protectors of the church. Throughout history, some of the biggest churches in the world have built these statues on their so-called holy temples, and this is where critical thinking needs to come into play. If the church is supposed to be a place of God, then why in the fuck are they putting statues of lizard-like humanoids on their buildings? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because these are the very individuals that are enslaving humanity today through religion. They put it right in our faces, folks. It hurts for a lot of us when we wake up to the truth that we have been lied to and led down a path of destruction, but we gotta accept shit for what it is, no matter how hard the pill is to swallow. The church tried to play the image of these beings as just symbols showing that evil dwelled outside of the church and their salvation is within its walls. But the same fucking beings they are telling you they are saving you from are the very ones in control of all organized religions. Don't y'all see the mindfuck? Everything is backwards. Now that I've broken down the reptilian race briefly, next I will be going over the insectoid beings and their agenda for humanity. The insectoid interterrestrials. The insectoid's agenda for humanity, which, number one, is infecting the world with nanobot technology, aka Morgellons. In the first Matrix movie, Neo was infected with a bug-like creature that Morpheus and Trinity helped him remove out of his body. Morpheus explained to Neo that he had been infected with a bug which allowed the Agent Smiths and the main programmer of the Matrix to be able to see everything that Neo was seeing and everything that Neo is hearing. This is directly symbolic to the nanobots, aka Morgellons, that they spray through the chemtrails, put in Monsanto GMO food, and that they also have in all major vaccination shots, and probably in most of all over-the-counter medications, if not all of them. These nanobots, just like in the Matrix movie, are deployed not only to spy our every movement, but these Morgellons are what you would call anti-melanin. I believe that these artificial worm-like creatures were the black budget government's attempt at reverse engineering melanin for their evil agendas. These Morgellons attach themselves to heavy metals inside of our bodies, so the less of these heavy metals we have in our body and the more alkaline our blood is, the less of a chance that these Morgellons will be able to attach themselves to the cells in our body. The best way to combat these artificial worms is to eat a primarily vegan alkaline diet without any GMOs and invest in real sea moss, burdock root, and zeolite. The sea moss will increase your body's alkalinity. The burdock root will detoxify your blood cells from the toxins in the GMOs, and the zeolite traps and cages heavy metals in the body, and they are disposed by way of urination naturally. These three things taken every day will significantly decrease the amount of these Morgellons in your body. Something we all need to understand, though, is that we all have these Morgellons in our body. We all just carry a different amount of them inside of us. Number two, the second goal that the insectoids have is to disrupt our body's natural frequency with radio waves. Now quickly, I'm just going to break down these two pictures that I have on this slide. So the first picture I have on the left is one of the hieroglyphics. And clearly you see here a human being, or which is actually a god, who is producing what you would call Wi-Fi signals out of his own hands, which is just frequencies. So this is showing how we were able to emit these frequencies like energy waves out of our bodies. And this is something that we lost the ability to do the more that these low vibratory radio wave frequencies were introduced into our environment. And as you can see in this picture of the right, the radio wave frequency is the lowest vibrating frequency on the whole wavelength spectrum. So this is why we have lost our ability to tap into these powers. Your frequency is what you frequently see. Everything that we do in this physical realm carries its own particular frequency, and the lower the frequency is, the more attached said thing is to the third dimension. The insectoid beings had fooled the Atlanteans by giving them artificial technology, assuring them that it was for their best interest and would only bring positive advances in civilization. What the introduction of artificial technology, aka the radio waves, did, this is why the insect has antennas on its head just like the original TV, was to make Atlanteans rely on artificial technology instead of our natural technology to do things in this third dimension, causing us to lose our connection to the abilities we had when we were connected to the cosmic current. The problems that we have today are the very ones that got us in this situation in the first place. When you study the story of John Chang, or the Magus of Java, he had to go deep into meditation every single day and take periods of time to go into nature and realign his chakras to be able to access these abilities. It takes inner work, which is also known as energy or energy. And just like most today, our past incarnations were tricked into believing that just because something took less work, that it was more optimal. Now I'll be going over how we fight back against these bastards in regards to these two subjects. Fighting back against the Morgellons. Number 1, an alkaline whole foods plant-based diet. These artificial nanobots favor acidic environments. The lower the pH level inside of your body, the more of a habitable environment these Morgellons have to thrive and multiply within your body. Maintain a diet focused on 100% non-GMO organic fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes, especially wild rice with chickpeas and portobello mushrooms. This dish contains all of the essential amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and caloric density that you need as a vegan to thrive. Most vegans don't have a problem with eating enough. They have a problem with not eating enough calorically dense, nutrient dense meals alongside a workout regimen that isn't destructive to your body but focused on building your body slowly. Then when you reach a certain level of fitness, you can begin doing more heavy lifts and more high intensity compound movements. These are tips that I wish I understood when I first got into fitness. Doing all of these things consistently will create an alkaline environment inside of your body, and you will be strong from the inside out. And you won't have to worry about these parasites taking over your body like it already has for a lot of humanity. When people trip on psychedelics and they say they feel like there's bugs crawling under their skin, this is because there fucking is, folks. You just can't notice them as much when the dimensional barriers are up. But when you take these compounds, aka psilocybin or LSD, these walls begin to get blurred and bleed into our world momentarily. You become hyper aware of everything. I believe these Morgellons are responsible for when people have bad trips, and that the nanobots have control over the person's vessel. And they take the drug, I believe they can begin to see the things that these Morgellons are connected to. If you really think about it, these parasites are created by beings that exist within the fourth dimension. The things that you would see in the fourth dimension would make you shit your pants if you were just some normal individual. So it makes complete sense why psychedelics do this to only a few people, even to those who become mentally unstable after bad trips. What if these worms just fried the person's brain once they became fully aware? This shit is deep. We are being attacked on every level, folks. Right here on the right, I have a picture that's going to show you some of the foods that you want to be ingesting into your body. On the left are the highly alkaline foods, in the middle the moderately alkaline foods, and then on the right are going to be your lowest alkalinity fruits and vegetables. So you guys can pause this video, take a screenshot, whatever you need, and really just do your research on these certain particular fruits and vegetables and learn how to heal your own body. So number 2, taking certain herbs and supplements to clean your body of these parasites. Number 1 for me would be sea moss, which is one of the most powerful healing herbs that we have available to us. Sea moss breaks down inflammation and mucus in the body, helping to reduce overall aches and pains. It also assists in draining the inflammation in the lymphatic system where most toxins accumulate. The other main benefit from sea moss is that its extremely high mineral content, which aids in memory function and also overall health. It contains all the minerals your body requires to function correctly. Take sea moss every single day, guys. Highly recommended. Number 2 that would come to my mind is zeolite. So zeolite is a naturally occurring mineral that is formed when lava comes into contact with saline water. Zeolite carries a negative charge, so what it does is it traps and binds to positively charged ions, aka free radicals, which are toxins, and escorts them out of your body through urine. This supplement is an intracellular detox and is very effective against fighting Morgellons. Morgellons like to bind to heavy metals in your body, so then the zeolite... I'm back, guys. I'm back. So, as I was saying, the zeolite, what it does is it cages itself to the heavy metals and escorts them out of your body, which also had the Morgellons caged with it. This is how we fight these bastards, through herbal medicine and dark alchemy. On the right side here, you'll see these are 2 brands that I would personally recommend, that I've used personally for about a year straight now. You can order these from Amazon with free shipping. The sea moss is about $25 for a month's worth, and the zeolite is about $40 for a month's worth, but is a very good investment for your health, and well worth the cost. Invest in your health, especially at this current time, guys. And something that I will say about sea moss is it is definitely better to get it in its natural raw form if you can get sea moss gel in particular, in which you can either make your own, or you can either go on small business websites like Etsy, You can find some on Amazon, but I would prefer to go to Etsy because it's small businesses, you know, and it's probably going to be a better product. So the next group of inner or extraterrestrials that we're dealing with are the Greys, who are the humans from the future that fused themselves with artificial technology and became fully inorganic. Yes, the Greys are humans from the future that sold their bodily organs and soul to live in the New World Order. Currently in this world, there is an agenda to fuse all organic humans with AI technology, and the hard reality is that over half of this world currently is already almost fully artificial. All of the GMO foods, unnatural drugs, vaccinations, body surgeries, and the list goes on and on and on, guys. There is an assault on the natural man and woman, and this is being enforced by the Greys primarily. However, the goddess Hathor, the insectoids, and the Alpha Draconians also work together with the Greys to ensure this agenda is played out. The further they bring us from our natural state, the further our consciousness is from the cosmic waters. The reason the Greys came back into our timeline is because they sold their soul to they sold their organic soul to participate in the New World Order society, and now they are back to attempt to fool humanity to do the same because they are jealous of those with organic souls. They are also on a mission trying to gain back their soul. I believe that the insectoids and draconians have promised the Greys their soul back if they follow through with their agendas, which they obviously cannot provide. There has been countless movies, cartoons, TV shows, and video games where they have depicted corrupt organizations being misled and tricked by their own people to achieve a higher position of power. I believe this is exactly what the other species are doing to the Greys, using them momentarily to help deceive and trick humanity just to fuck them over in the end. But for the Greys, it's their only choice, seeing as they don't have an afterlife. To prove the Greys got rid of all of their natural organs, all you have to do is read reports of people who claim to have been abducted by the Greys. They all claim the Greys have a foul stench that comes from their pores. This is because the Greys have no digestive system, which leaves no place for their waste to go out other than through their pores. For nutrition, they would just inject a vitamin and mineral serum. This is the fate for most of humanity, those who do not denounce the New World Order. But you can bet that the body modifications, the transgender movement, and the fuckers claiming they aren't even human but are an animal or their own made-up species is all being orchestrated by these extraterrestrials. Phil Schneider had multiple lectures on interactions with these beings, and he was murdered for releasing this information. Next section of this lecture is going to be going over the gods of the macroverse, which are those who seeded all of humanity. Prometheus, the father of man. The truth behind human creation has been right in our faces for the longest. The Greek story of Prometheus, just like all Greek mythology, was just ancient knowledge that was taken from the Gnostic teachings and information from the Egyptian Book of Life and the Book of Death. Prometheus, the Titan that chose to join alongside the Olympians. Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus, I can't really pronounce that, were given the duty of creating man. In Greek texts, it will say that Prometheus created man out of clay, and if you break down what clay really is, it is a substance that can be molded into any variation that the mind can create. What this is talking about, guys, is it's referring to neuromelanin, because what neuromelanin is it is organized chaos. In other words, it can basically become anything but in an organized matter. Prometheus's brother had been given the duty to grant all of the unique qualities to all life forms. But once he had gotten to man, he had given out all of the useful qualities. This is where Prometheus stepped in and decided to give humans fire and the ability to stand upright just like the gods. Prometheus favored the humans over the Olympians, even though he had joined forces with the Olympians to battle the Titans. Prometheus began to see the jealousy in Zeus as he feared the humans would begin to grow to be just as strong as them one day, and that the gods would be overthrown by them one day. Zeus decided to take away the fire that Prometheus had given humans to leave them to die without fire to stay warm or be able to cook food. This is symbolic because in the hieroglyphs, they show the gods feeding each other the Ankh, So when they say they didn't have fire to eat or stay warm, it was the fact they didn't have kundalini fire that brought them spiritual enlightenment, aka true fulfillment, full awareness. Without the kundalini fire, they would simply perish with no spiritual afterlife. And Prometheus refused for this to be the fate for all humans, so he decided to steal the kundalini fire back from Zeus and grant it back to humans, causing Zeus to banish Prometheus to the Caucasus Mountains, where his liver would be eaten by an eagle for 4,000 years. The exact same story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden giving the apple to Eve, aka opening her pineal gland. And when the God of the Bible found out, what did he do to Lucifer, aka Prometheus? He banished him to the underworld for 4,000 years, chained to a rock, exactly like the story of Prometheus. Now, this story of human creation has been shown to us through many movies, ancient texts, and various other sources, but I will be going over just a few of those now to help show the bigger picture. One of the most profound movies in recent times, it was known as Prometheus, aka the name of the god that I had just gone over, who is Enki, aka Asar, Osiris, or also known as Lucifer, the masculine aspect of Lucifer. The movie Prometheus was released in the year 2012, which is extremely significant, seeing as the Mayan calendar had predicted the world to end in 2012. But what most fail to realize is that the Mayan calendar is 9 years behind the Gregorian calendar. It is important to note they pushed the calendar 9 years forward, just like we are 9 ether beings. See guys, they put it right in our face. And on the very year they had all of the sheeple believing that the world was going to end, they released one of the most profound movies about human origins ever. This was not a coincidence, folks. They must show us the truth, as it is part of universal law, but they always show us the truth when there is a distraction attached to it. This movie was so clear and cut to the point, not like some movies where hidden symbolism is grounded together with false info to confuse us. In the movie Prometheus, they literally showed us how the higher gods used their DNA and infused it with carbon, aka the earth, and created human beings. They even titled the movie after the very god that was responsible for creating humans. Like, guys, they put it right there in our faces this whole time. The main characters in this movie are beings known as the engineers. And it's funny that they call them the engineers because they literally engineered human beings. In the very first scene of the movie, you see one of these beings come out of a craft and land onto Earth's surface. After making its way towards a large body of water, and that's very significant as well, because if you go and research ancient literature from all these different cultures, especially one that comes to mind is the Irish culture, is they say that the Fomorians, which were basically melanated gods, came out of the dark waters. So these are all small details that we have to pay attention to, folks. But I'll read the sentence one more time. After making its way towards a large body of water, the engineer consumes a black liquid, which causes him to disintegrate until all that is left is his DNA strands, in which you can see that his DNA strands begin to fuse with the water, creating a multicellular organism, aka the eukaryotic cell. And that's what's so funny about all these people claiming that prokaryotic cells are the only cells inside of so-called carbonated people, when literally the entire construction of the human race was the eukaryotic cell. The movie showed us how all humans were created by taking God DNA and fusing it with organic materials such as plants, certain animals, etc. This was never about mixed cells versus non-mixed cells, because almost everyone is a mixed cell organism. This is a documented fact, not only through the forensic and genetic literature, but also shown to us very clearly through these movies, cartoons, video games, TV shows, etc. And so on the top right, I have a caption. It's important to note that the engineer consumes a dark substance representing neuromelanin, which fuses with organic matter, creating humans. The hidden truth of Asar, aka Osiris, who is also known as Enki, the true heir to the throne. As I said before, all religious texts in ancient mythology stems from ancient Kemet, but what people need to understand is that Kemet was not a physical location, it was a way of life, a culture, and Kemet spread across the entire globe, hence why there are pyramids all over the world, where we were all over the world upholding the energy of Kemet. Just like our rise to 5D, it was never physical, it's all mental, and the physical follows after. The ancient god Osiris is none other than Prometheus himself, the god who gave humans fire to prosper. Osiris created humans in his image and gave them kundalini fire, enacting their pineal gland. The followers of Osiris would spread across the globe, teaching the way of ancient alchemy, astrology, astronomy, architecture, etc. This is what Kemet was. It was a mindset. The biblical story of Jesus was simply a copycat replica of the ancient history of Osiris. But guess what? There's one big difference. There was actually a tomb of Osiris. And when they looked at his tomb, there were no remains left. And just like in the ancient texts, Osiris was put to death by a relative and then shortly after resurrected by his wife Isis, though this explains why there was no remains left in the tomb. To the right is a real-life image of the tomb of Osiris that they still try to call a myth to this day, even though there is a literal physical fucking location. This just shows you guys how hard they're trying to confuse the masses. Even though there is a literal tomb for this god that is carbon dated thousands of years back, and these archaeologists that are on the government's payroll still try to call this shit a legend or a myth, they rely on our ignorance to prey on us. This is why I must come across today with this information. These are the keys to saving our souls, aka our light. Next, I'll be going over the god Thoth, who is the guardian of the Akashic records. What is our Akashic records, and what role do the blue avians play in our ascension? Even when it comes to godhood, there are levels to this shit, including the ranks that these different species of gods hold. The blue avians are bird humanoids that are responsible for keeping the history of our past lives protected within the Akashic library, guarded by none other than Thoth himself, the god of wisdom and enlightenment. Thoth was the author of the Emerald Tablets dated back 36,000 BC, a fact that puzzles scientists and archaeologists to this day with the information that was held inside. I recommend everyone to go research and read these Emerald Tablets, as they will show you the truth about our soul's history and go in depth about Thoth and his true role within our ascension. He was known as the god of wisdom, magic, and universal knowledge. Thoth was frequently shown with Osiris and Anubis during the ceremony of weighing one's heart to see if they were granted permission into the next dimensional realm, and the result was recorded within the Akashic records. The reason why all of this is so important is because we can tap into any of these gods' energies for different purposes, and if we are able to tap into the energy of Thoth, we will be able to know exactly what aspects of our soul we need to work on for us to be approved to move into the fifth dimension. The feminine warrior sun goddess Sekhmet. According to the ancient texts and hieroglyphics, Sekhmet was created when the sun god Ra looked down upon humanity and observed them not following the laws of Ma'at, causing humanity to become unbalanced. With a look of rage, Ra burst Sekhmet from his eye that he shot down to the earth. Upon seeing the state of humanity, Sekhmet was put into war mode state where she began to destroy all those who disobeyed the laws of Ma'at. The one part of Sekhmet's story that I have a hard time believing is that she was under a trance-like bloodlust state of consciousness, and she began killing everything in sight until Ra mixed beer and pomegranate juice and put it along the path of Sekhmet's destruction until she drank all of it, causing her to fall asleep for 3 days. And upon waking, her desire for bloodlust was no more. I believe the reason they put this in her story was to give people the impression that these gods are dangerous and should not be trusted. Not to mention the Hindu goddess Kali is the original low vibrational war goddess who attempted to slay the male race after their creation out of jealousy. And now within the consciousness community, you see plenty of females claiming they carry Kali energy, aka the feminist low vibrational energy. I also find it interesting in all of these stories told by historians, they all seem to involve alcohol. The Jesus story of water turning into wine, Thor being known for drinking beer, feeding Sekhmet beer, I don't believe that all of that is a coincidence. all more mindfucks to sway the masses into believing that high vibrational gods would consume something as low vibrational as alcohol. The sun goddess was known to be both the healer and bringer of disease. She could bring destruction or prevent it. Duality and all. The masculine sun god Ra, the creator deity. When it comes to understanding what and who these gods truly are, we have to be able to use our own discernment and critical thinking skills. We must study all of the ancient texts, cross-reference, and know etymology, aka the root meaning of words. All of these things together will allow you to see what is the truth and what is lies told by the government-funded archaeologists and Egyptologists. At the end of the day, these individuals will not tell us the full truth and the knowledge that can save our souls. However, by universal law, they are required to leave breadcrumbs for us to decode. I will start by saying this first because when you look at the information pushed by mainstream archaeologists and Egyptologists, they will try to tell you that the sun god Ra is actually called Amun-Ra. However, as I said, this is where etymology comes into play. The deity Amun is none other than Jupiter, aka Zeus, aka the Jesus figure from the Bible. How can I prove this? What do people say when they pray? They say Amen. This is because when you pray and say Amen, you are giving your energy to Amun. Amun was jealous of Ra and all the other creator gods. Zeus, aka Amun, was only a god of the microverse, but wanted to be praised and looked up to like the gods of the macroverse, such as Nut, Gaia, Ptah, Osiris, etc. In the Greek story of Zeus, as I broke down earlier, when Prometheus gave the Kundalini fire to humanity behind Zeus's back, he was furious because he did not want anyone to become stronger than him and wanted to remain above them as they suffered and he prospered. Amun was so jealous, in fact, that he began splicing his own beings into existence with no active pineal gland. That way he could have a group of devout followers that would follow his every command without question. Now look at the way religious folks today will deny all evidence presented in front of them, no matter how much you prove their ideology is wrong. They will defend their gods. This is because Kronos is the god of the Bible and Zeus is the Jesus figure, and they both work side by side to enslave humanity, and they'll defend them to the end of their days. I'm very confidently believe that Ra is actually the red sun, aka Nibiru, or what some would call wormwood. It's our original sun, but something that we also have to understand about these planetary bodies is that they are not just floating rocks. These are highly intelligent, advanced organisms. These gods can take many different forms in this third dimension. I believe not only are we going to witness these gods in their starship forms, I also believe we will see them live and in the flesh. To make this make more sense, think back to the Transformers universe. All of the Transformers represented was the Titans, aka the gods of the macroverse, and they had a humanoid form and a vehicle form. Some could even have more than two forms. In the third dimension, if you are a god that has mastered your inner microverse, you can manipulate the light photons in any object into any object or being that you want. To end this section, just like Ra brought Segmet down to the earth to restore balance when humanity was disobeying the 42 laws of Ma'at, that time is about to come once again, folks, and this is why the second sun is now being located all over the world. Next section of this lecture, I'm going to be going over the fallen angels, who are the true Anunnaki. The Anunnaki have been portrayed as righteous beings through this consciousness community, but I'm here to tell you guys that that is not the case, and that the true Anunnaki are actually the beings that are in charge of this light photon spectrum. Hathor is Venus, Aphrodite, and in the movie Doctor Strange, they portrayed her as the Scarlet Witch. They put it right in our fucking face. Pay attention to the horns. When Rihanna made the song Umbrella and was singing about Rain Man, Rain Man is another name for fucking Satan. And guess motherfucking what? Venus is the daughter of Kronos, who is Saturn, the real Satan. Are you guys hearing me correctly? This knowledge was so profound that it nearly brought me to tears when I found this out. and that is that Rihanna is none other than Hathor herself in the flesh. However, Hathor takes many human forms. The statue of Venus is holding the snake, just like the one that is upon Hathor's crown. These motherfuckers are cracked. The many forms of Hathor and her agenda for humanity. Hathor's plan to masculinize women and feminize men. Each one of these gods that are ruling over the light photon spectrum have a particular agenda for humanity, each one targeted at bringing us further and further away from our natural state, which is crystal technology. These substances that they poison us with are all focused on reversing our biology, bringing us further from nature. If your vessel is unnatural, you will not be able to absorb cosmic radiation from both suns, meaning you will not be able to upgrade your DNA strands. This is very deep, folks, and one of the major agendas in play right now is completely controlled and sought out by the low vibrational goddess Hathor. Hathor is also the Roman goddess Venus, or the Greek goddess Aphrodite, the goddess who has control over love, beauty, desire, sex. When something looks good or feels good, that is Venus energy, and it is a fact that Venus is associated with the light photon spectrum and the Saturn moon matrix, not only because these very physical senses are what densifies our light and traps our soul in this dimension, but also Venus is the sister of Saturn, who is El, Kronos, Father Time, Ogo, Yaldabaoth, Satan, the prince of the air, aka the ruler of the physical realm. As it told in the Bible, the waters below were split from the waters above, and Satan had rulership over the waters below, aka the realm of air. Hathor's job that has been given to her by her brother is to make masculine energy feminine and make feminine energy masculine, to throw off the balance of energy on the planet. Men's testosterone has decreased 20% in the last 20 years. Through the introduction of chemicals, neurotoxins, microplastics, man-made viruses, and so on, the Zionists have been successfully destroying the male's testosterone, which is the very hormone that makes you a man in the first place. The more testosterone you find in someone, the more masculine energy you will see this person carry. A very important piece of information that will help you understand the bigger picture is that the male sex was created and introduced by the gods from Sirius to bring back balance to Earth. After Saturn and his fallen angels lowered their frequency and came to Earth, they wished to be the rulers of this planet with unrighteous intentions. When the male sex was introduced by the Nomos, the female warrior goddesses went to war with the male sex, and this was depicted throughout many ancient paintings and carvings. A notable one is the bloodthirsty goddess Kali, who I just spoke about, who is one of the many female deities who are against the male gender. And as I just broke down, Hathor is the main feminine deity in charge of this light photon matrix. Something else that is important to note is that how I said that Prometheus, aka Enki or Osiris, is the masculine aspect of Lucifer. We have Hathor, who is the feminine aspect of Lucifer. Prometheus, aka Osiris, is the true light bearer, while Hathor is the false light bearer because she is Venus, the god of material emotion and desire. We are literally at war right now with these feminine deities that are trying to demasculinize men. And to all the men that are listening, you need to understand that they are trying to keep you from your ascension at every corner, and you cannot let them get the upper hand in any instances. Only eat foods that are non-GMO and organic, that are from the earth, and cut out all processed prepackaged foods. We have no idea what the hell they are putting in these chips, these crackers, cakes, cookies, and so on. I'm convinced that almost all GMO food has human fetal cells, as the government has been caught on numerous occasions putting this in many food and beverage products. The main one that I can know is Pepsi. You guys can go do your research on that. The only way that we can return to nature is we have to only consume what is natural. A plant-based diet on top of that gets sun every single day, and your testosterone will continue to climb. It's not about what you need to add, it's about what you don't need. And here on the right is it's showing you exactly what a substance known as atrazine does. Atrazine is one of the most dangerous chemicals that is being put in GMO foods. It's being sprayed through the air. Probably in all aspects of life, they're trying to poison us with this substance. What it does is, like it says right here, it increases your risk of premature birth, and it causes hormone disruption and damages your reproduction system. This is why the amount of people who are able to have children is going down, and this is why men's testosterone is plummeting at a rate that's never been seen before, and women's testosterone is rising. And then the other agenda that Hathor has for the female race is making the female gender more masculine through promiscuous brainwashing. When it comes to destroying the female sex, the Zionist warlocks simply deployed the same tactics that led to the male sex creation, which was bringing unbalanced energy by the female sex holding both masculine and feminine energy. The original woman that inhabited this planet had sperm located in their bone marrow, specifically in their spinal column. This has been proven to be true by archaeologists who dug up female spines with DNA and RNA from sperm cells. Not to mention there are certain species of animals who can undergo a process known as parthenogenesis, which is when a female has sperm cells already located in her body that she uses to fertilize her own eggs. This is most commonly found in certain shark species. The reason why this is so important is because this shows that the female vessel is designed to absorb energy that it holds. Now, on a biological and genetic level, this carries over to sexual intercourse. When a woman has sex with a male, his sperm cells leave something in her womb even when the sperm cell dies off. This genetic information is known as a mitochondrialism. This piece of genetic information also contains a man's testosterone, seen as it came from a sperm cell. And what does the woman's body do? It absorbs the genetic information from her male partner. And now to go back to biology and genetics to prove this. Male mitochondrialisms have been found in women who have given birth to no sons. Now, what does this mean? This means the only way that these women could have had male mitochondrialisms in their womb is if they had sexual intercourse with a man and a piece of his genetic information was left in her. This is the final nail in the coffin, though. 63% of women were found to have male mitochondrialisms in their brain, and not all of these women had given birth to sons. What does this mean? All of you females out there that are semen demons, brag about sucking dick all day, you know, your average city girl, just know that when you partake in these acts, you are getting another man's genetic information lodged in your sinus cavity, which is making its way all the way up to your brain, which is making you more masculine. Sex was never meant to be an act of lust. It is purely an exchange of energy, and when we manipulate and adjust this sacred act, there are consequences. All of you mainstream female artists preaching the message of I need no man, I get the bag, I make him fiend for that pussy, they're all demonic entities controlled by Hathor herself. They showed you in the Matrix movie that these deities can be in multiple places at once. Different faces, but they're all the same individual. Next, I'll be going over the jealous god, the wannabe creator deity, Amun. One of the biggest psyops ever deployed on humanity was the thought process that just because something is carbonated, that it is good for us or has our best interest. This part is for all of the so-called enlightened individuals that think the entities in charge over this matrix are so-called artificial beings. You motherfuckers clearly have never done any research if you claim this to be true, and I'll break it down for you now in detail. The god known as Amun is none other than Jupiter or Zeus. Egyptologists will try to tell you this deity goes by the name of Amun-Ra due to Amun so-called fusing himself with the sun god Ra. Now, understanding etymology is so damn important, and this is just one example why. All government-funded branches of study are manipulated and will always give you the truth mixed with the lie. And nothing that they will put out on a mainstream platform will never be the 100% truth. The reason that they told us Amun fused with the sun god Ra is because Ra was a creator god and he could make organic life purely from thought. If you study the ancient story of Zeus and how he went on a mission to free the Cyclopses, so that they would grant him with the power of the lightning bolt, then you would just see they gave him the power of the lightning bolt that he would use to overthrow his father. This story alone shows you that Amun was no creator god, seeing that he could not even defeat his own father and needed assistance from higher ranked gods to defeat him. The Cyclops were the Titan beings who only saw through their pineal gland, and this is why they had depictions of them with only one eye. Zeus, who is Amun, is the son of Kronos, who is Saturn, aka Father Time, who is also known as the Demiurge. The particular being who created Metatron's cube entrapped our light in the third dimension. It is impossible for Amun to be associated with the highly vibrational creator god Ra, when this deity works alongside the individual keeping our light at a low frequency and keeping our light trapped to be recycled over and over. These individuals are parasites and were kicked out of the waters above for defying the laws of the universe. Amun did this by pulling a group of beings from another universe into ours. These beings are known as the Nordic race, who are the original Caucasians. Amun took his genetics and spliced them with a rhesus monkey to create the Neanderthal. Then he took the Neanderthal and spliced it with the Nordic's DNA, creating the modern-day Caucasian that you see today. There are two groups of people on the planet today. Those with the DNA of Enlil, aka Saturn, and the beings with Osiris's DNA, who is Enki, aka Nomo. In the picture on the right, you can see Amun sitting under the goat. The goat who represents Saturn, hence why the Greeks would sacrifice goats to the gods. This is because they were fucking paying homage to the chief parasite himself, Father Time. And now I will be breaking down the chief archon himself, Father Time, also known as Ogo or Yaldabaoth. One of the most shocking pieces of information ever revealed within the consciousness community was the fact that the god of the Bible is actually the real Satan, who is Saturn, Yaldabaoth, Ogo, or also known as Set, even though I believe that was infiltrated, that name in particular, and that is not his true name. I believe he also goes by Ogo, Yaldabaoth, but not Set. I have a hard time believing that, and I can break that down in a more detailed fashion in another lecture. Throughout civilization, this individual has continually changed his title that he goes by to keep the masses asleep and not even realize that the very devil himself is being worshipped by most of the population. And then people wonder why shit is so backwards in society today. That is because this is Saturn's world, created by him to rule over. However, he was only allotted 400 years to rule as a test of the Atlanteans' merit. All major religions are worshiping the same deity and are all governed by the same group of individuals, what you would call the black budget government, which are the interterrestrials and the few humans allowed access to all of the world's secrets. Saturn, Kronos, Yaldabaoth, or Ogo, as the Dogon tribe called him, is the ringleader behind all of this, and yes, he is a carbonated being. All these know-it-alls on the internet that do no research will tell you that the leader of this show is a lizard or a draconian, when in reality this motherfucker's true form is an insectoid beast. How can I prove this? In the movie Starship Troopers, they had a queen that was called the Brain Bug, which led all of the other bugs. Also, in the It movie, the clown demon known as Pennywise had two forms, the humanoid clown and the giant insectoid creature, which was his true form. The It clown is none other than a depiction of Kronos. In the Bible and Revelations, it talks about God unleashing a swarm of locust-like beings that were the size of humans, and that these locusts would inflict pain on those who went against God, and claim that they would seek no relief, not even in the form of death. Now I have a question. Why in the fuck is the so-called peaceful, loving, forgiving God sending humanoid locust beings to Earth to torture humans? That's because he is their leader. That's because the fucking God of the Bible is the king of the insectoids. In the Bible, it also refers to Jesus as a worm. That's because his fucking father is a worm. In the Greeks' depiction of Saturn, his name was Kronos, aka Father Time. In fear of his own children overthrowing him, Kronos would eat his own children. This directly ties into the Christian sacrifice of God's only Son, not to mention communion in church where you eat the flesh and drink the blood of Christ. Like, folks, it's time for us to wake up. We have been manipulated and deceived for too long, but that's why there are people like me who have been sent here to put the message out. Saturn is also responsible for the artificial magnetic grid that is surrounding the Earth that keeps our light magnetized to this dimensional realm. Father Time manipulated the hemoglobin in our blood to make it iron-based instead of copper, gold, or magnesium-based. The oxygen in the air comes in contact with the iron in our blood and robs our cells of an electron, causing us to slowly age, aka die over time. This was Saturn's way of making the children of the Titans so-called mortal, but we continue to reincarnate, and this time is up for Father Time. As our DNA comes online from the solar radiation, we will begin to vibrate higher than the light photon spectrum, which is the light spectrum that Father Time governs. At that point, there will be nothing that he can do to stop our ascension, and we will go to war with this chief archon and his army. They told you about this in the Bible when Jesus came back with all the saved souls and threw Satan in the lake of fire. The fire is our Kundalini fire coming fully lit. One second, folks. Sorry about that. It's our Kundalini fire coming fully lit, and we won't be able to be stopped this time. Understanding reincarnation is very important because we must study how to escape it. That way we never come back to this realm if our vessel gets taken out. The Kemetic teachings on mummification were the keys to escaping Yaldabaoth's false light traps. They would take out all of the organs except for the brain and would fill the body with organic materials to fool Saturn and make him believe that the soul was still in the body. Worms are blind, so Yaldabaoth can only sense energy. Mummification was practiced all over the world, and as I said previously in this lecture, Kemet wasn't just a location, it was all over the world. Venus, aka Hathor, is the sister of Kronos, and Jupiter, aka Amun or Zeus, is the son of Kronos. So this is the crazy part, folks. All of the individuals who are working against humanity, they're all related. In the next section of this lecture, I will be breaking down the Saturn-Moon matrix and how Saturn is trapping our light down into this third dimension. The Saturn-Moon matrix, also known as Metatron's cube. Breaking down what Metatron's cube truly is. There's a movie, cartoon, and TV series that goes by the name of Transformers, where they put the hidden truth behind what Metatron's cube truly is. In the Transformers movie, Revenge of the Fallen, the main villain in the movie was also known as the Fallen One, who represented Saturn, Yaldabaoth, Ogo, Father Time. And what was the main goal for the Decepticons? It was to acquire the Allspark cube, which would give whoever held it the ability to take lifeless material and turn it into the cybernetic warriors known as the Transformers. Now, what does this represent in our day-to-day life? The Allspark cube simply represents the Titans who are able to use neuromelanin to alter and manipulate the light photons inside of their body. This is why the Transformers had a humanoid form and a vehicle form, because they were able to manipulate Metatron's cube and rearrange the order of light photons, allowing these gods to shapeshift into anything their minds could imagine. To show even more connections, one of the most notorious villains in the Transformers movie series was the being known as Megatron. Sounds pretty familiar, don't it? That's because the movie producers in charge of this film's production knew exactly what they were doing. The being known as Megatron was looking for control over Metatron's cube. The last nail in the coffin to prove they were directly referring to ancient knowledge and history is the fact that Optimus Prime battled the Fallen One and Megatron near the pyramids, where there was a device known as the Harvester in the Great Pyramid of Giza. One of the Decepticons attempted to get it out from inside of the pyramid, but wasn't successful, as the Decepticon was destroyed. But the Fallen One finished the job and acquired the Harvester to absorb the sun. This is all symbolic. The Fallen One represents Saturn, Ogo, Yaldabaoth, Father Time. And what does this individual do with our light? He harvests it. And out of everything they could have depicted, they had the fallen one, aka Saturn, use the harvester to absorb the sun, which is the main fuel source for all neurocarbon beings. They put the goddamn truth right in our faces. Next, I'll be going over the artificial magnetic grid that surrounds the Earth, trapping our light within this dimension. Understanding what the Saturn Moon Matrix truly is and how we can escape reincarnation. The Earth is surrounded by two magnetic fields, one organic and one artificial. If you pay close attention to the picture on the right, you will see that there is two separate magnetic fields that surround the Earth. The Earth's natural magnetic field is the one that you see coming from the actual Earth itself, with four oval-shaped fields, just like how the Earth is shaped like an egg tilted on its side, just like the egg inside of a woman, and just like a sperm cell. All of these natural things have the same shape. Nature is very consistent. The flat Earth bullshit was a psyop promoted by Hollywood, athletes, and musicians that are owned by Zionist Jews. It is time for us to wake the hell up. Flat Earth was a way to divide the consciousness community and argue over meaningless shit, not to mention the whole point of convincing the world to believe in a flat Earth is to bring your consciousness down from 3D to 2D. A flat plane is two-dimensional. The Earth's natural magnetism is what you would call the frequency of the Earth's heart chakra. This is why there are four magnetic curves, just like how your heart chakra is the fourth chakra. This is also known as the Schumann resonance. The artificial magnetic field is the blue line that is completely surrounding the Earth's natural magnetic fields. This is what most truthers would call the dome that is trapping us from leaving this planet. This is what you would also call the Van Allen belt. The artificial magnetic field is being projected by the moon, which is a space station that is occupied by draconians, insectoids, and greys. They showed everyone the truth in the Dragon Ball Z TV and comic series, where the moon would cause the Saiyans to turn into were-apes. This is showing how the energy from the moon sends down animal beast-like frequencies, which cause us humans to vibrate below the God frequency. However, the gods from Sirius have been hard at work since the invasion happened. As time passes, the UVA, UVB, and UVC radiation has drastically increased, causing the ozone layer to be destroyed, which is really the artificial magnetic field trapping our souls to this physical body. The other celestial bodies responsible for the Van Allen belt's creation is the planet or god Saturn. And the funny thing is, mainstream archaeologists will tell you that Saturn rings are getting smaller over time and that they will be fully gone within 100 million years. The truth mixed with the lie, as they always do. I'm here to tell you right now that I know this is bullshit and this process is happening way faster than they are telling you. Saturn's rings are what is balancing the planet's own gravitational pull, aka its magnetism. As I just stated, the artificial magnetic field is getting peeled back more and more every day, proving that Saturn is losing its magnetism, aka its rings. I recommend every person who is watching this to follow and monitor a space instrument known as the Enlil Solar Wind Prediction and the Multi-Satellite Magnetopause database. Right off the bat, y'all can clearly see the fuckery. Why in the world would NASA name a space weather instrument after a Mesopotamian god who is known to be associated with the wind and the air? Just like how Satan is referred to as the Prince of Air. The reason this is all connected is because Saturn, aka Enlil, is the one monitoring the solar winds. Because he knows they have a direct correlation with the end of his rulership on this plane he created. The more the solar winds increase as solar flares become more frequent, the more this fake magnetic field will get peeled back, and when the Van Allen belt, aka the ozone layer, is removed, there will be nothing Saturn can do to stop the gamma rays coming in and the higher frequencies, which are going to upgrade our DNA strands back to Titan mode. In this next section, I'll be going over the Dogon teachings about the moon and its origins. The Dogon elders, the masters of cosmology and those who held the knowledge of the universe. How the Dogon tribe mapped out the universe with no space travel. One of the most interesting cultures in the entire world is a tribe formerly known as the Dogon. The Dogon tribe are located deep in northwest Africa in a country named Mali. The Dogon are known for their advanced understanding of cosmology, seeing that they had mapped out a neighboring star to Sirius that wasn't discovered by astrologers till 250 years after the invention of the telescope. This neighbor star to Sirius is what is also known as Nyan Tolo or Sirius B. There is no possible way the Dogon could have mapped out this star with the naked eye, and for this reason, this captured the attention of many cosmologists and astrologers, leading them to study and live amongst the Dogon tribe to try to obtain a better understanding of how they gained this knowledge. The Dogon claimed that many thousands of years ago, a species of beings known as the Nomos came from the sky in a circular arc-like craft surrounded by fire and thunder, which is plasma energy in reality. They claimed that the Nomos were amphibious beings that gave the Dogon ancient knowledge about the universe, which allowed them to map out Sirius A, Sirius B, and Sirius C. Sirius B is said to be much smaller than Potolo, aka Sirius A, but much more dense, meaning the smallest amount of organic material on their planet would weigh tons on ours. This is why on our planet, the Nomos would basically not be affected by the Earth's so-called gravity, meaning they would have supernatural-like abilities, seeing they would not be affected by our magnetism. They have depicted this in many movies, such as The Predator, which really means the Predators, aka those who came before us. The Predator represents the Sirius gods, in which they possessed advanced technology, super strength, super speed, and could jump extremely far distances. Another major depiction of this is the Incredible Hulk, who was green just like the Kemetic god Osiris, who is Nomo. And the Hulk had supernatural abilities just like the Predator does. And what was the color of the Predator's blood? It was green. All of these supernatural beings in these movies, TV shows, video games, etc., are all depictions of these Sirius gods. The Dogon also state that the Nomo divided its body amongst men so that it could all be fed. Now what did Prometheus do? He stole the fire and gave it to humanity so that they could be whole and survive. This is the exact same theology, just told slightly different, folks. When the Dogon talk about Nomos splitting its body so all could be fed, they are really talking about the Nomos taking their genetics and fusing it with the humans, aka genetic grafting. As I stated in the very beginning of this lecture, there was a genetic splicing program on this earth where some of the gods were creating half god, half humans, and others were creating unnatural beings. This is where this starts to all come full circle. The fact that across all of these cultures, mythologies, and ancient texts, all of these stories of creation of higher gods all correlate with one another. The creation of the moon, the artificial soul trap. Every indigenous culture has a story of creation, and when we take a look at these stories of creation and put them together, we will begin to unfold the real truth behind our existence. One of the most respected elders of the Zulu tribe, Credo Mutwa, had sat down many years ago and explained exactly how we as humans had got to this point. Within the Zulu story of creation, there are a group of beings known as the Chitauri, who are what we would know as the Alpha Draconians or the Reptilians. Credo Mutwa states that there are two brothers who were the chiefs of the reptilian race, and that they stole the moon in the form of an egg from a great fire dragon, where they hollowed out its yolk and rolled it across the sky, bringing cataclysmic events that ended the last golden age. What this is actually referring to is the God of the Bible creating the moon to project low vibratory frequencies down to the earth, which caused the Titans to become mortal. The God of the Bible then summoned the great flood to wipe out all of the godlike beings on earth. This is why there are mound-like structures, plant-like structures all over the world that are giant and look like humanoid figures. This is because at one point these structures were living beings. In our Titan state, we were walking, talking forces of nature. The moon is a hollowed out space station that is inhabited by draconians, insectoids, and greys. And the Zulu tribe can confirm this information to be true based upon their story of creation. They have depicted the moon's true purpose in many movies, many cartoons, etc. As I broke down earlier, The moon is what caused the Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z to transform into their beast-like state. In the Star Wars movie series, the Death Star was a hollowed-out space station that would use weapons of mass destruction to destroy other planets. The more recent movie, Moonfall, was by far the most revealing when it comes to what the moon's true purpose is. And what did the scientists find out at the end of the Moonfall movie? That the moon was a space station that was inhabited by an alien species. They put the truth right in our fucking faces, folks, every time. The moon landing is one of the most discussed topics even still to this day. They have individuals arguing back and forth if we ever landed on the moon, and they have most of the world convinced through counterintelligence agents that we never have. Well, again, they put it right in our face in the movies. In the Moonfall movie, they discovered that there was a secret mission in which NASA sent a group of astronauts to the moon, in which most of them were killed, and the ones who made it back had told NASA what they had found, causing them to have to fake the moon landing, knowing now what inhabited it. I believe the exact same thing happened in our own reality, except that what they discovered was the Draconians and the insectoid, which slaughtered most of the astronauts sent on the secret space mission and were told to never come back. There is a government organization known as the SSP, which stands for the Secret Space Program. This information, folks, has never been hidden from us. Universal law is that they have to show us everything. The neurocarbon beings. We are walking, talking crystals. We contain all of the same elements that are found in stardust. We are a piece of the cosmos. Us natural beings on this planet contain all the elements that you find in stardust, meaning we are simply an extension of the cosmos. To have a better understanding at what we are, we can look at crystals. It has been observed that if you take different crystals and put them in water, the vibration from each particular crystal actually changes the composition of the water molecules, and each different crystal will produce its own individual snowflake-like structure. These snowflake-like structures are sacred geometry, which is in every natural organic substance on this planet. The different crystals being able to manipulate the water molecules' composition has a direct correlation with the gods of the microverse being able to manipulate Metatron's cube and do an act that most would call shape-shifting. Not only were we able to manipulate Metatron's cube and shift into any physical form, we also had the ability to basically create nuclear weapons out of the elements that are inside of our bodies, and they showed us this again in many cartoons. In Naruto, many of the characters could harness the energy from inside their bodies to create literal weapons like Naruto's Rasengan or Sasuke's Chidori. Also in the Dragon Ball Z cartoon, they would summon energy beams out of their hands with the ability to destroy planets. Yes, folks, the truth is way stranger than fiction, and as I spoke on earlier, these gods of the macroverse and microverse went to war over if humans should have the right to reach godhood. And now I'm at the conclusion for this lecture. After learning all of this, what are the main takeaways? Alright guys, we are now at the end of this lecture, and I hope that I have brought insight into many different areas for all of you. When I first had the vision of creating this composition of knowledge, my goal was to take all of the most important topics associated with our light's true purpose and put it into an in-depth breakdown that all people, no matter what stage in their spiritual evolution, could use to give them a better understanding of what is truly taking place. One of the other most important reasons I knew I had to create this detailed breakdown was due to the ridiculous amount of misinformation being spread within the consciousness community. There isn't enough people creating in-depth breakdowns over certain spiritual topics. Just a lot of surface level scratching information that is making people confident in spreading bullshit and not having to take accountability for it. When I called out Kala Amun-Ra in his comment section on his Instagram on the fact that he was wrong about the prokaryotic cell, his initial response was to go in my DMs and make threats against me. Like literally this man went into my DMs and started like threatening to hurt me, and I blocked him. Like I just said, I just simply blocked him. I didn't have time for that shit. These motherfuckers' heads are so far up their own ass from their followers feeding off of each other like an echo chamber that they would rather resort to violence than attempt to discredit your information. I want people to tell me when I'm wrong, cause love ain't lies, and we all have been misguided and led astray on this journey. But one above all is true. No matter how much shit is said, in the end, the truth shall remain the truth, and righteousness shall reign supreme in the end. I give much gratitude to the gods of the macroverse for leading me down a path of knowledge. That way I could supply this vision that I had for you guys. I could cover many more topics within this lecture, but I would much rather make individual breakdowns on particular topics, which I will be doing on this Patreon channel. So you guys stay tuned for those. I would love to get everyone's input on what movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, or spiritual topics that you guys would like for me to cover. I was sent down onto this plane for this very purpose, and I couldn't be more happy to serve all of you Atlanteans. We are on the rise. There is nothing that these Zionist bastards can do about it. These motherfuckers have been cracked, and now that we are all equipped with the information, it is now all of our duty to share what we have learned with the world. I truly appreciate every last one of you from the bottom of my heart, and I could never do this without you guys. Until next time, Light Code Library out.